Good afternoon, friends. I welcome you to this virtual refresher course on indirect tax. And today is the second day of, in fact, the third day of this course. I am privileged to be having with me our Vice Chairperson of WRC, CA Drishti Desai, my senior council colleague, CA Kamlesh Sahu, and definitely the learned speaker for the day, CA Advocate Avinash Poddarji. Friends, I hope all of you are safe and healthy and keeping fine. The topic that we are going to discuss today is attachment of goods bank account in GST, a legal debate. And we are aware that this has become a pain point in the recent scenario. Before I invite the speaker, I would request Drishtiben to kindly give her opening remarks.
Thank you, Vishal Bhai, for giving me this opportunity. It's really a pleasure to be here on this platform with this, learned faculty, my council colleague Kamlesh Sabu, and yourself. So, a very good evening to one and all, and a very good evening to all the attendees here. So on this platform, I would like to just update you on few of the things that we are doing at WRC. So one is that we have started this portal called Khoj, and where women CA members can register themselves if they are looking to any job or placement. And there can be also, you can also enter many other things like your area of interest, years of experience, your geographical preference, and also the employers can register themselves. They can then shortlist the candidates from there, and then the mail will be sent out, and that is how we can bridge between the employers and the job seeker women members. That's one initiative that we have. The other thing that we have is also charitable trust re-registration. So not charitable trust as such, but charitable entities re-registration. They need to be re-registered before 30th of June. And for the purpose of this, there are new forms which have been given out. You have to fill in those forms. There are these requirements to upload the trust deed, and there are quite a few new requirements which are there. And maybe in the old trust deeds, you may not have complied with these conditions. That is why there are many questions that people are facing currently. And so we have also started a charitable entities re-registration help desk. There are experts on that help desk. You post your questions on the help desk and you will get your replies, and by the experts who are sitting there, and it comes very fast. So I would say that do take benefit of this help desk that we have rolled out. In due course of time, we'll be rolling out more and more of these types of help desk. And based on the inputs that we have got on this re-registration from the experts and also the members, we have also sent out representations. And in one of the representations, which was sent out to the charity commissioner, the charity commissioner has also passed an order saying that all the charity commissioners should share the deeds, because what happens when the trust or the entity is very old, you may not have the deed with you, but you would have definitely filed it at some point with the charity office, and a copy of that same would be available there. So you will understand that fair bit of work is done in this regard. And now even the government authorities are there to help us in prioritizing sharing the trust document. So that's about it from my side, some of the updates. And with this, may I request Vishal Bhai to take over the proceedings and take it forward. Thank you, Vishal Bhai.
Thank you, Drishtiben, for updating the members on the initiatives being undertaken at WRC. I would now request CA Kamlesh Bhai Sahu to kindly introduce the speaker.
Thank you, Vishal Bhai, and thanks to Drishti Madam, sitting Vice Chairperson of Western Regional Council. And this is really pride and privilege for me to introducing Avinash Ji Podar, good friend of mine. When we were we were studying that time, we were just supposed to think one person can have the CA, doctor, LLB, all degrees. Is it possible to be? Yes, and he is the live example for the same. He is doctor, advocate, chartered accountant, and insolvency professional Avinash Podar, and he is currently practicing as an advocate in the field of indirect taxes, commercial laws, and cyber crime. He is based at Ahmedabad, Surat, and Delhi, having branches and associates all over India. He is associated with the Messrs. ASHVA Legal Advisors LLP, attorney and advocates as founder partner with Messrs. AAP and Company Chartered Accountants and as legal advisor, and with Messrs. VSSK Advisors Private Limited as director. He is author of various books on GST and indirect taxes. Educational qualification, you just say the names: BCom, LLB, FCA, PhD, IBBI, insolvency professionals, and passed his proficiency self-assessment test for independent directors, diploma in information system audit, certified financial planner, Microsoft certified professionals, completed various certified courses of ICAI such as arbitration, forensic audit and accounting, and fraud detections, valuations, IFRS, indirect taxes, and post-graduation in cyber crime, PGCCL. And professional experiences, he has completed chartered accountancy in 2000 with excellent academic records. He has experience of more than 20 years in practice as professional. He practiced as a chartered accountant for almost 17 years, 2000 to 2017, in direct as well as indirect taxes, and since April 17 he is practicing as an advocate, and in such short span he is having many landmark judgments in his name. Area of working specialization: practicing in the field of indirect taxes, central excise, customs, service tax and VAT, corporate laws, RERA, IBC and cyber crime. Specialized in representing for litigation works pertaining to the indirect taxation, appeared and argued before Honorable Supreme Court of India, various high courts which Gujarat, Madras, Patna, Kerala, Bombay, Allahabad, Kolkata, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand and Uttarakhand, Customs, Excise and Service Tax Appellate Tribunal, Commissioner Appeals, Settlement Commissions, Authority for Advanced Billing, etc. He is represented before NCLT as corporate law and IBC matters, representing in arbitration and conciliation matters as counsel, and has also acting as an arbitral tribunal for few matters, and conducted forensic investigation for several government agencies. His contribution as a professional to trade and professions: he is special invitee of GST and Indirect Tax Committee of ICAI for the year 1920 and 1819, special invitee of Indirect Tax Committee of PhD Chamber of Commerce Delhi for the year 21 and 2019, 18 and going forward and going backward also, member of Indirect Tax Committee of West India Regional Council for so many years, and member of GST and Indirect Tax Committee of Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industries, member of Indirect Tax Committee of Ahmedabad and Surat branch of WSU ICAI. He is past convener of study group of GST formed by ICAI for South Gujarat, now member of the same, empaneled arbitrator at Indian Council of Arbitration, special invitee in committee formed by Veer Narvada South Gujarat University for changes in syllabus of BCom, MCom in respect of the GST, and also writing the books on GST in Gujarati for the said university. Member of VAT and GST Committee of South Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industries. He has contributed as a speaker and delivered more than 750 lectures. I don't want to give name and everything because I have a list of more than 5 pages. With this small introduction of my dear friend Avinash Podar, he is a knowledge ocean of the knowledge. Everybody requested, let's dive into it and grab more and more from him. With these words, I'm welcoming CA, and LLB and advocate Dr. Avinash Podar to start with your session. Thank you so much, dear.
Thank you so much, Kamlesh Bhai, for the wonderful introduction. At the outset, I would like to thank WARC for giving me this opportunity. It's indeed a proud privilege for me to be part of this advanced course, and the way and the manner in which the entire series has been designed is inclined towards dissemination of the advanced knowledge so far as the GST litigations are concerned. And litigation is going to be at least for next 5 years, GST is going to be the litigation is going to be the future of GST. Maybe over the period of 5 years, the law gets settled, and a lot of things, even the government gets settled, and the systems get settled, and the disputes or the litigation will come down, which was the intention at the time when the GST was proposed. Anyways, let me express my gratitude once again to WRC, to all the office bearers, Vishal sir, Drashti madam, and Kamlesh bhai. Although the pressure on me has been now casted more after the introduction that was given, because a lot of things we have written, we have forgot that. Now everything has been reminded back, so it becomes much more important for me to deliver at the expected level. The topic which is allotted to me is attachment of goods, which in itself is a very broad topic. And not only that, but the attachment of bank account. Rather, I would put it in this fashion, that there are two important sections which are going to be impacted in our deliberation today. As per my reading, one is section 83 of the CGST Act, and the other one is section 129. Because when I say attachment of goods, there can be multiple interpretations of it. One interpretation can be that the attachment of goods pertaining to the detention of the vehicle, which is during transit it is being intercepted and detained by the officer, and then thereafter they are attaching the goods. Or the another example can be, or the another situation wherein the goods can be attached, is section 67 of the law, which deals with inspection, search and seizure. I'll try to discuss all these provisions along with some case laws, and the way in which I want to frame this today's session is that we'll try to discuss about the provisions and the case laws and what and how this is going to be dealt with by the courts or by the department officers in future after the proposed amendment in section 83, which is already approved or assented by the Honorable President of India, so far as central is concerned, but we'll have to wait till the state assemblies also give the assent and the notification comes for the implementation of that particular amended section 83. So I'll try to delve into that also. So the entire plan which I have for today's session is that we'll try to first touch upon section 83, read it threadbare, try to understand how the law has evolved over the last almost 47 months of the implementation of GST, and then we also need to delve into the amendment which is proposed. There is a comment of the Honorable Supreme Court also, so far as section 83 is concerned. In one of the matters, I'll try to touch upon that also. I'm sorry, friends, I'm not carrying any presentation with me. There is no material which is with me. I'll be trying to travel along with you extempore. So therefore, I have a request to make. Please hold a paper and pen with you. Whenever you have any query, kindly note it down, because I propose that last 15-20 minutes we'll have only for question answers, because that is something which is going to add value to me also and to all of us also, because there are n number of questions which we have in mind pertaining to today's subject. I'm not going into the CRPC. I'm not going into any other law. I'll be purely dedicating the allotted time only on the provisions of GST law and how it is being interpreted and how it is getting evolved from 1st July 2017 till today, and what can be the future litigations so far as these two aspects are concerned. So allow me to start. Section 83. See, in every law, there is a provision of recovery, but recovery comes when the adjudication is already done, or when I've declared some amount in my return which I've filed as my liability but have not paid it. So there can be two situations wherein the recovery can be initiated. One, the allegation was there show cause notice has been issued, it has been adjudicated also. After the adjudication and the period for within which the appeal needs to be filed, that period is also over. After that, the recovery can be initiated by the officers. So therefore, section 73, section 74, read with section 75, read with section 78, gives the power of recovery under section 79 to the excise, to the central tax or the state tax officer. This is one. Now when I say that it has been adjudicated, meaning thereby the show cause notice and the adjudication process has taken place, the amount has been determined, you are not proceeding for filing an appeal against that, meaning thereby directly or indirectly you are admitting that amount, and since the amount is being admitted, the liability is confirmed and therefore the recovery can be initiated. This is one. The second is wherein the recovery can be initiated when you have declared something showing that as your liability of payment of tax, but you have not paid that. The exception is written in section 75 subsection 12. Please refer that section. That section has undergone a change also in this particular year. On 1st February 2021, when the Honorable Finance Minister has proposed the changes, she has proposed one very important change in section 75 subsection 12. Now what is section 75 subsection 12? This same provision was there in service tax also, that when I'm declaring, when I'm saying that yes, this 10 lakh rupees I'll have to pay, this is my liability, and if I fail to pay after filing the returns or at the time of filing the returns, then in that case the department is not subjected to or is not required to issue any show cause notice. So friends, the final line, the defining line which comes out from this discussion is that even 1 rupee is to be recovered, even 1 rupee when is to be recovered by the department, they will have to issue a show cause notice, meaning thereby show cause issue करना पड़ेगा, adjudication करना पड़ेगा, फिर recovery कर सकते हैं, या फिर they will have to rely on the return which I have already filed, and on the basis of that return they can come for the recovery directly to me. So this is one which relates to recovery. Now during the process of, let's say, investigation or inspection or audit or assessment and the issuance of show cause notice, then its adjudication, it takes time, and there is a time limit also which is there. The maximum time limit which is specified under section 73 is 3 years, and maximum time limit under section 74 is 5 years. We all are aware, therefore it is to be understood and appreciated that it is going to take at least that much of time. Now there are situations, there are circumstances wherein we are not, or the departmental officers are not in a position to wait till the adjudication of the same. Maybe because they have their own understanding and the reason to believe that the person against whom the allegation is being placed, or the person against whom the assessment proceedings or the investigation proceedings or the adjudication proceedings is initiated or inspection proceedings is being initiated, may not be in a position to pay the taxes after adjudication, because in this period of 3 years or 5 years as the case may be, there may arise a situation wherein the person who is liable to pay may abscond. He may sell his assets to some other person, he may transfer his assets to some other person, and therefore the question of recovery of the tax, which we have understood that post adjudication it can be done, will be a larger question, and therefore section 83 as an intervening section I would say in the entire process, so as to protect the interest of the revenue, is introduced. And this is a very, very important section to be there in the statute books. But having said that, this being one of the most important sections in the statute book, the way and the manner it is being used, or the power which is given to the officers, the way in which it is being misused, is not the right way of doing it. And therefore, I have strong viewpoints which I would like to share with all of you now. In the next 15-20 minutes, we'll be discussing that. Now, what is the provision? Let us first go into the provision, because when I say a legal debate, only a view will not suffice. Why that view is taken, and why the courts are taking a view, and why the officers are not appreciating those views, needs to be understood. So friends, the provision I am reading, I am just giving a glimpse of the provisions which were there from 1st April 2017 till date. I am not touching upon the amended provision at this point in time. Please bear with me, give me some time. After that, I'll certainly touch upon the amended provisions also. Now friends, the provision says that when there is any proceeding pending, under which sections? When there is any proceedings pending under section 62, under section 63, under section 64. 62 deals with the scrutinies, 63 deals with the person who is registered but who has not filed the returns, meaning there were non-filer of returns, the best judgment assessment. 62 deals with the non-filers, and 63 deals with the person who is supposed to be registered but he has not taken registration, and therefore the best judgment in his case. And section 64 deals with the summary assessment. Where any proceedings are pending in any of these three sections which are pertaining to chapter 12, which is assessment. I'm specifically mentioning this so that you can clearly find the distinction between the provision as on date and the proposal which is already amended, and it is to be notified for the implementation. So section 62, section 63 and section 64, if any proceeding is pending in any of these sections, or under section 67, which is chapter 14 of the CGST law, or under section 73 or 74, which is chapter 15 of the CGST law. Just remember this: chapter 12, chapter 14, chapter 15, section 62, 63, 64, 67, 73, 74. Now, what are these sections? Let us just understand in 2-3 minutes that what these sections provide for. Section 62, as I've already stated, that a person who is registered but who has not filed the returns, the officer will have to intimate him that he has not filed the returns, and for that the respective section is section 46. Even after issuance of notice under 46, if he is not fulfilling or filing the returns, then the officer can, on the material which is gathered by him, it cannot be on a guesswork basis. It has to be on the basis of material gathered and collected by him, that he can initiate the best judgment orders, best judgment assessment. And even after the best judgment assessment, there is a time limit which is given, that if you file within 30 days the return which was not filed earlier, then the best judgment order will automatically be withdrawn. Then there is a provision under section 63 which deals with that a person who is liable to be registered. See, you all will appreciate, I'm presuming that all the participants in this particular session are well versed with the provisions of law. Only thing that we are doing together is, I'm just adding my views, and many of you will agree to that view, many of you may not agree, and this is how the law evolves. Because unless there is dispute, unless there is difference of understanding, unless there is interpretational issue, unless there is segregation of understanding or difference of opinion, a law can never get evolved. And therefore it is very important to have different opinions. So I'm sharing my views, and then we'll have a common view also, which is held by the honorable courts till date. Now, section 63 deals with the person who is liable to be registered, meaning thereby a person who is defined within the definition of taxable person, a person who is liable to be registered but who has not taken registration. In that case, section 63 will be applicable. The best judgment order can be done by the departmental officers. And then comes section 64, which deals with summary assessment. What is summary assessment? Summary assessment is that the officer is doubting that this person may abscond, and therefore it will become difficult for us to recover the amount from him, and therefore we should not wait for the assessment to be done. Before the assessment, let us issue an order with the and for the same he will seek the permission of the additional commissioner, and after getting the permission he will pass the assessment order, which is known as summary assessment order under section 64 of the CGST law. So these are three sections which are covered in chapter 12 of the CGST Act. If any proceeding is pending again in any of these sections 62, 63 and 64, then in that case section 83 can be invoked. Just bear this in mind. Now let us move to next section, which is section 67. Now section 67 deals with inspection, which is section 67 subsection 1. Search and seizure, which is section 67 subsection 2. Then rest of the subsections in section 67 deals with how to comply with, how to get rid of, how to get the attached goods or seized goods released and all those steps. So I'm just giving a outline wherein section 67 subsection 6 says that if any goods are seized, then it can be released as per the prescribed norms, that is rules. And rule says that you will have to pay the amount of tax which is there and provide a bond or a security of the total value, and then you can have the goods released on a provisional basis. So therefore just park this also for a moment. So section 67 is covered under chapter 14 of the CGST law, and any proceedings if pending under section 67, meaning thereby inspection, search and seizure. So now the question will come, when it can be said that a proceeding under section 67 is pending, meaning thereby, now please try to understand a very important point which I am raising, and which is the point of dispute. As per my limited understanding, when an inspection is started or commenced under section 67 subsection 1 by the departmental or the proper officer, it is said to be pending only during the duration of that inspection. Once the inspection is completed and a panchnama is drawn or a document is drawn and the officers leave the premises after completing their inspection, as per my limited understanding, the proceeding is said to be ended. It does not remain to be pending. This is my view. Although there are different views of the department. डिपार्टमेंट तो कहता है साहब एक बार इंस्पेक्शन हो गया तो अभी सेक्शन 74 में जब तक हम आपको शोकोज नहीं देंगे तब तक वो प्रोसीडिंग पेंडिंग है. एज पर मी द आंसर इज नो, and we can very well argue this, we can very well fight on this. Second is 67(2), wherein the search initiates. Again I would say the moment the search initiates and the moment it gets completed by way of issuance of a panchnama drawn, I would say that the proceeding under section 67 is concluded. Then there arises a dispute that there can be a show cause notice within 6 months for the goods which are seized by the officers, or you can get it released, as I have said, under section 67 subsection 6. Nevertheless, for the purpose of section 83, see, seizure of goods is under section 67(2), but attachment or other provisional attachment is not under section 67, it is under section 83. And section 83 says where any pending proceedings under section 67. So chapter 14 of the CGST Act, section 67 does not or cannot be said to be pending after the Panchnama is drawn. That is my view. That view I have already taken. And I am arguing with this view at various forums, at various courts, including Bombay High Court. Now, third step. So there are two chapters which are already covered, 62, 63, 64. That is chapter 12 of the CGST Act dealing with assessments. Then section 67, chapter 14 of the CGST Act dealing with the inspection, search and seizure. And then it is section 73 or 74. Section 73 or 74 deals with chapter 15, which deals with the recoveries, demand and recoveries. So section 73 and 74 deals with the notices to be sent and the adjudication to be done. So if any proceeding pending against those in those sections, then also section 83 can be invoked. Now, when a proceeding, again I am adding a view on the basis of my limited understanding and the reading of the law. Section 73 or 73 proceeding, when it can be said to be pending? Can we say that a summon issued under section 70? I'm just flagging a question and I'll add my answer to this. Then at the time of question and answers, if you have any confusions or any discussion to be made, we'll do that. If any summon is issued under section 70 of the CGST Act, can it be said that it is to be treated as pendency of section 73 or 74 proceedings? To my humble view, with the limited knowledge I have, the answer is absolute no. Because my reading of law suggests that section 73 or section 74 proceedings get commenced at the time of issuance of notice, issuance of show cause notice. So meaning thereby, once the show cause notice is issued, prior to its adjudication under section 73, 9 or 10, the proceeding is said to be pending. But any investigation or any issuance of summon or any issuance of letter, collection of evidences or documentation or recording of statements, all those, as per me, will not be to be treated or shall not be treated as a pending proceeding under section 73 or 74. Now I have a very strong reason of saying so, and when we'll try to understand the amendment that is proposed to be done, we'll try to appreciate my view. So now friends, these are the three chapters, and out of these three chapters, these are the 6 sections: 62, 63, 64, 67, 73 and 74. These are the 6 sections. If any proceeding is pending in these sections, then provisional attachment under section 83 can be done. That means provisional attachment of property. Now property, as per the common understanding, it includes movable as well as non-movable or immovable. Meaning thereby, if I say, if the topic is read plainly, then it says attachment of goods and bank. So the goods also can be attached provisionally under section 83, because goods are defined in law as a movable property, or something which is movable is goods. So attachment of goods also can be done, and attachment of something which is not goods, meaning thereby an immovable property, can also be done under GST law, which says including bank account. So bank account also can be attached. Now let us try to understand further the provision of this, how it goes and what is the intention. So it says where the proceedings are pending under any of these sections that we have discussed: 62, 63, 64, 67, 73 and 74. That means 6 sections. The commissioner, now please appreciate, this is something which is very, very important, and there are cases also which have been adjudicated not only by any other court but also by Honorable Bombay High Court, which is within the jurisdiction of most of the participants of this particular session. So therefore, the commissioner is of the opinion. The commissioner, the word used is commissioner. See, when you will read this law, at various places you will find the commissioner or officer authorized by the court himself, and commissioner is defined in GST law. There are two kinds of commissioner. One is commissioner adjudication or executive commissioner, and the other is the commissioner in board. So it speaks about the commissioner, not the commissioner in board. So the commissioner is of the opinion that for the purpose of protecting the interest of revenue, meaning thereby the second important aspect to be kept in mind is that the commissioner should opine that for the purpose of protecting the interest of revenue, I'm repeating, for the purpose of protecting the interest of revenue, it is necessary so to do. That he opines, the commissioner himself opines that so as to protect the interest of revenue, the attachment of property, including the bank account, is necessary. So the important thing that you can, or important distinction that you can draw from this is that the provisional attachment has three conditions. One, there has to be proceeding pending against the specified sections. Two, the commissioner himself must be of the opinion. Three, that the protection of interest of revenue is very, very important. If all these three conditions are therefore satisfied, then he can order in writing. He can order in writing for the attachment of property, including the bank account belonging to the taxable person, in such manner as may be prescribed. Which is DRC 22, if I am not wrong. That is the form which is signed by the commissioner, wherein the property or the bank account or whatsoever to be attached is mentioned. Now, friends, the important aspect is that we have concluded till now is commissioner must take the view, and the view must be taken so as to protect the interest of the revenue. Now, subsection 2 of this section 83 dealt with that every such attachment which is done provisionally by the department or by the commissioner shall have the effect of only 1 year, meaning thereby it will lose the effect. So it will cease to have the effect after the expiry of period of 1 year from the date of order made under subsection 1. The date you are issuing an order of provisional attachment under subsection 1, within the completion of 1 year, that means the date of expiry of 1 year, it will be closed, the issue will be settled, and the attachment will be released. So this is how the law is read. Now let us try to touch upon few of the cases, because there are multiple cases under section 83 disputes, but we'll try to touch upon few of the cases wherein some important principle is let down. One important principle is let down in Pranith Hem Desai. It was pertaining to a bank account attachment. Now, if you need to note down the citation, then you can note down. It is Pranith Hem Desai versus Additional Director General, DGGI, and the special civil application was 7321, 7321 and 7323 of 2019, and this was adjudicated on 12th April 2019 by the Honorable Gujarat High Court. Pranith Hem Desai, a very famous and celebrated judgment. So in this judgment, the Honorable Court said that whenever you want to decide something against the taxpayer, or you want to attach the bank account, then there is a process which is laid down in the law, and the process says that as per rule 159 sub rule 5, as soon as the attachment takes place, the person, the taxpayer, has to submit the objections pertaining to that. So this is to be kept in mind. If any attachment happens and you directly approach the court will never entertain that. The court will say that the procedure which is laid down in law is, after attachment, within a period of 7 days, you will have to apply to the officer who is attaching the property under rule 159 sub rule 5, raising the objections that on what basis you are saying that the attachment is bad in law, and therefore the attachment should not happen. It is contrary to the provisions of section 83. So in Pranith Hem Desai, it was said that you will have to comply with the objections. The petitioner will have to file the objections, and the officer will have to take the call and take the decision as soon as possible with relation to the objections which is submitted by the petitioner. Now, another very important case law is of Jharkhand High Court, which again deals with a very disputed issue of section 50 subsection 1, that is the leviability of interest, whether it is to be on gross or is to be on net. So as you all are aware, in many of the cases what was done, section 50 interest they have calculated on gross basis. Even after the GST Council has admitted that they have committed a mistake, and they will have to amend the law, wherein they will say that the interest is to be levied only on the net basis. It cannot be on the gross amount. Even after them, that since the law was not amended, now they have amended the law. The department continued to issue notices, and not only notices, the department continued to attach the bank accounts for the interest amount if not paid by the taxpayer. So this is one important judgment of Mahadev Construction Company versus Union of India. Mahadev Construction Company versus Union of India, writ petition number 3517 of 2019. This was a Honorable Jharkhand High Court judgment wherein the final outcome was, and the issue was, that the competent authority or the officers have imposed interest for filing delayed 3B, and during the pendency of the writ petition, they have also attached the bank account. Council of Revenue says that he wants to submit the reply why the attachment has happened and why the bank account shall remain under attachment. But the Honorable Court has given a stay to the attachment of bank account, and they have said that the order of attachment needs to be stayed, and therefore the petitioner will be allowed to operate the bank accounts. Meaning thereby the point is, for these petty issues, can you say that a person who is running business will run away merely because the interest dispute is there, that whether the interest is leviable, and see the kind of dispute and the kind of exponential differences which the department calculated. I have argued multiple cases for this particular section. You will be finding it very, very what I can say, आपको हंसी आएगी सुन के, you will be finding it very, very stringent or very, very awkward to understand this, that when I calculated the liability of interest on the basis of net liability, the interest was being calculated as 54,000 or 55,000 or 60,000. But the notices that I have received on the gross calculation of interest liability was more than 2 crores. See the difference of 54,000 or 60,000 and 2 crores. These differences were so huge, and then they have started the attachment of bank accounts also without adjudication, without doing anything, and without having any proceeding pending also. There is one judgment which is given by the Honorable Gujarat High Court in one of my cases, Raj Kamal Builders, wherein they have issued a notice under section 50 subsection 1, and they have issued the notice of recovery also. So the court says that section 50 subsection 1 is not covered in the adjudication section itself. For recovery of interest, you are not supposed to issue any show cause notice. So there are multiple cases also which are pertaining to this. So I'll just leave with this. And then a very, very important and a landmark judgment was there, which was Villarias Industries versus Union of India. Again, Honorable Gujarat High Court in special civil application number 13132 of 2019. This was adjudicated very, very clearly, and please now try to understand the ratio which was let down. It's a big judgment. I'll not be in a position to dissect the judgment and share with you, but I'll share the main ratio which was let down. See what they are doing. They are initiating an action against me, and the very next day they attach my bank account. Now, as per the Constitution of India, Article 19(1)(g) gives me right to business. As soon as my bank account is freezed, I will not be able to make any payments, neither to my vendors, nor to my employees, nor to the bankers. No payment can be made because the account is freezed. Therefore, the question of survival of business or violation of right of business under Article 19(1)(g) comes. So in this judgment of Villarias Industries, the Honorable Gujarat High Court has led that the attachment of bank account, see, please appreciate, the court is only to a limited scope of attachment of bank account. It is not speaking anything on the attachment of property, and there are n number of cases which are argued by us before various courts, wherein the court have said that ठीक है, हम आपकी property नहीं छोड़ेंगे, let the property be attached, whether it is rightfully attached or not, whether it is wrongful attachment, whether the opinion of the commissioner was taken in haste, and you are not going to run away. You have a property, or let's say a factory of 10 crores and the liability is 1 lakh rupees, and for that he has attached the property worth 5 crores. No worries, we are not going into all that. You get it adjudicated. As soon as it will be adjudicated, your property will be released, because this is a provisional attachment. But we'll surely try to release the bank account if your case has merits. Meaning thereby the courts were also inclined, because they were appreciating that once the bank, see, if the property is attached, property papers are lying with me or the property papers are lying with the department or some other person, it makes no difference at all. But if my bank account is attached, it makes a difference that I will not be in a position to make the payments, and therefore the question of survival of business comes into play. So the courts have observed this, and in Villarias Industries, the decision which we are referring now, a very important judgment was pronounced by Honorable Gujarat High Court, wherein the Gujarat High Court has clearly laid down the principle that the attachment of bank account is a very, 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 very drastic and sensitive power. When I say a drastic and a far-reaching power, it means that once you attach the bank account, my entire business gets closed. Therefore, the court suggested and court said that this attachment of bank account should be the last recourse. I'm repeating, should be the last recourse. It cannot be the first recourse, meaning thereby you try to recover if you have doubt that the taxpayer may run away, or he may abscond, or he may not make the payments in future, or we may have to face the issues of non-collections in future. Then in that case, kindly attach his bank accounts, kindly try to recover from some other sources. But if there are no resources, no such possibilities of attaching the property or recovering from any other source, then only the bank account should be attached. Meaning thereby, since this is a very drastic and a far-reaching power, this power must be exercised or should be exercised with extreme caution. It cannot be like a regular course may every now and then you cannot attach the bank accounts, which unfortunately the department is doing. But the court said that it should be exercised only if there is sufficient material on record to justify satisfaction that assessee is about to dispose of wholly or any part of his property with a view of avoiding the collection of demand. Then only you attach the bank account. See, as I have already said, that if otherwise the recovery section is already there in section 79 of the CGST law. What is the requirement of having section 83? Requirement of section 83 is that if within this duration of initiation of proceeding and the adjudication thereof and the appeal period of 3 months, if he absconds or if he alienate with his assets, then in that case the recovery will become difficult. And if the commissioner is of the opinion that that may happen, then in that case section 83 can be invoked. So therefore the court has also said that please use this power very cautiously. If there are sufficient material on record which are establishing a fact that the recovery will become difficult because he may alienate with his assets or he may run away, he may abscond, then only you should exercise this power, which is very broad, and then only you should proceed with the attachment of bank account. So this was a judgment of Vilarius Industries, and the other similar judgment again of Honorable Gujarat High Court is Pranith Hem Desai. The earlier judgment that we discussed of Pranith Hem Desai was subjected to the objections that as soon as the attachment takes place, within a time duration which is mentioned in Rule 159, you will have to raise an objection, and then the objection will have to be rejected or accepted by the officer. In this case, that is this petition, which is 9392 of 2019. I am repeating, 9392 of 2019, Pranith Hem Desai. Again, the Honorable Court has laid down a very important principle that attachment of bank account can only be a last recourse. It can never be the first recourse, and therefore whenever you want to attach the bank account, you will have to make sure that the recovery is going to be difficult in future, and therefore so as to protect the government revenue, the attachment is crucial or attachment is important or necessary. Then only you should proceed with the attachment of bank account, otherwise not. Now there is another very important judgment of the Honorable Madras High Court in case of VN Mehta and Company. The writ petition number is 26187 of 2019. 26187 of 2019, wherein the Honorable Madras High Court has dealt with the issue of section 79 read with section 83. Now I have already tried to share the difference in these two sections. Section 79, when the amount is determined and the recovery is initiated, that is section 79 power. Section 83, that the amount is yet to be determined, but there are reasons to believe of the commissioner or the reasons for framing an opinion that to protect the interest of revenue, it is important to attach the assets or attach the property, including the bank account. In this case, the issue was that competent authority has initiated the proceedings under section 79 straightway, even before making any assessment, and issued notice to the bank officer. Section 79 1C में वो एक notice issue कर सकते हैं to recover certain sum of amount maintained by the assessee on the reason that sum paid was payable by assessee under GST Act, and it had failed to make such payments. Impugned proceedings were absolutely not maintainable. So please appreciate And please try to understand, there is a vast difference in section 79 and section 83. Section 79 is the section of recovery, and section 83 deals with only provisional attachment, which gets released after the expiry of 1 year from the date of order of attachment, or after, as per my understanding, after the issuance of adjudication order also. Because provisional attachment फिर आप क्या करोगे, उसके बाद तो you can recover the amount. So after the order is issued, the provisional attachment, as per me, should be lifted automatically. But nevertheless, what you can do is you can make an application, submit a letter to the jurisdictional officer for release of your property, and you can mention that you have a time limit of 3 months within which you can file an appeal. So therefore, you are deciding to file an appeal within a period of 3 months or extended period of one more, that is 4 months. And therefore, the provisional attachment of property should go. And if you are not making the appeal or filing the appeal within this time limit, then the order will become final, and then you can start the recovery proceedings under section 79. So this distinction is very important, which we'll have to keep in mind when we are dealing with such kind of issues of bank attachments and all. Now, friends, I would like to touch upon another very important judgment of Bombay High Court. It is Kaish Impex Private Limited, Cash Impex, K-A-I-S-H, Cash Impex Private Limited versus Union of India, 3145 of 2019. Very important judgment, because it lays down a principle that a third party's property or bank account can never be attached. अब आप सेक्शन 83 को वापस से ध्यान से पढ़ेंगे तो it says taxable person, meaning thereby the attachment of property including bank account can be only of the taxable person against whom the proceedings are pending. If a taxable person is entering into a transaction with Mr. X, then the properties or bank account of Mr. X cannot be attached merely because he was indulged into business transaction with me. So in this case also, the Honorable Bombay High Court has dealt with such a situation wherein a transaction happened between a person who was at Bombay and Delhi, and there were certain payments which were being made to a third party, and the department has attached the bank account of that third party, saying that you three have relationship. You three have relationship because the transaction has been entered into by the Delhi person to the person whose bank account was attached. So therefore, I'm not going into the facts because the time will not permit to go into that. But the ratio laid down by the Honorable Court was that since no proceedings were pending against the third person under any of the provisions which are specified in law under section 83, that is 62, 63, 64, 67, 73 and 74, none of the proceedings are pending against that person. The proceedings are pending against the, let's say, purchaser or supplier who is based at Bombay or Delhi. So merely because there was a transaction entered into between the third party and the supplier or recipient, you cannot attach his bank account or his property. So therefore, the ratio which was laid down by this Honorable Court, Honorable Bombay High Court in this matter was that since there was no proceeding pending against the petitioner under sections which are specified, order of provisional bank account attachment should not survive. And merely on the basis of issuance of summons under section 70, this attachment was without jurisdiction and therefore it was quashed by the Honorable Court. So this also is very important judgment. So therefore, I have tried to cover this. Next again is Bombay High Court in case of Gehna Trading LLP. It is writ petition number 167 of 2020. In this again, the same issue was there, that a summon was issued and the authority has directed the bank manager to attach the bank account, whereas there were no proceedings pending against the taxpayer. So in this case also, the Honorable Bombay High Court has said or rather said to release the property, release the bank account. Now, please note this judgment. This is again an important judgment, because when we have read section 83, section 83 subsection 2 says that the provisional attachment cease to have effect after the expiry of 1 year from the date of the order. The question comes that if after the expiry of 1 year also the attachment is continued by the department, what can be done? So there is one judgment of Calcutta High Court in Amazonite Steel Private Limited. I'm repeating, Amazonite Steel Private Limited versus Union of India. Writ petition numbers are 18429. There are multiple writs attached to it, but the important is 18429, 18431 of 2019, 2019. Now, in this, what has happened? The attachment was there, 1 year was over, but its attachment was continued. So the ratio which was laid down in this particular judgment by the Honorable Court was, there is no embargo, there is no restriction on again attaching the property including bank account after the expiry of 1 year. But the provision of law says that 1 year if expires, you will have to detach the properties. The attachment must go. And the court says that if after 1 year there are fresh reasons, पुराना 1 साल पहले जो आपने ओपिनियन बनाया था वो नहीं चलेगा. There are fresh reasons of belief that still the attachment is required to protect the government revenue, then you can pass a fresh attachment order. Then you can pass a fresh attachment order, meaning thereby 1 साल complete होने के बाद by default your attachment will go, unless within this duration of 5 years they have issued a confiscation notice to you under section 130 and they have confiscated your assets or your goods. Otherwise, it is certainly liable to get released after the expiry of 1 year. As soon as 1 year will pass, it will be automatically released. And then if the department has to continue and there are fresh reasons of opining that it needs to be continued for the purpose of protection of the government revenue, then yes, they can again issue a fresh attachment order and have the properties continued to be attached. So therefore, this is again, as per me, a very, very important judgment, Amazonite Steel Private Limited. Now moving to another important judgment which I would like to cover and then we'll stop. In Delhi High Court, one of the judgments is being argued by me, which is Uflix Industries, although it is the matter is listed next week. But again, the argument in that is that you need to have jurisdiction also. Let's say if an attachment is done by, or if I have a jurisdiction of, let's say South Delhi, can a commissioner of East Delhi attach the properties of the person having jurisdiction of South Delhi? This is the question which is raised before the Honorable Court. Although the bank account is released because we have given the fixed deposits and the securities, but my humble submission in that particular case is the answer is no. Jurisdiction again becomes very, very important. You cannot sit at Surat and you can attach the property of person residing at Bombay. This cannot be done. This can be done only by the jurisdictional commissioner, as per my understanding. So still the matter is to be argued and it will be decided by the Honorable Court, but this is what I have taken as a view and therefore I have shared with all of you. Now let me touch upon 1 or 2 more cases and then we'll go ahead. Okay. Now let me just touch upon one very last judgment of the recent Honorable Supreme Court. Now, Honorable Supreme Court in one of the cases, which is Radhakrishnan Industries versus State of Himachal Pradesh. Radhakrishnan Industries versus State of Himachal Pradesh. The Honorable Supreme Court had been very vocal. I was having the privilege of being the part of those hearings because I was there for arguing a different matter. So therefore, I have been or I have witnessed the arguments taken place before the Honorable Court and the way the courts were annoyed with the powers which is being misused. The Honorable Supreme Court, so far as Section 83 is concerned, have said that this is a draconian power. It is a power which is draconian in nature. And exercise of power of ordering the provisional attachment must be preceded, I'm repeating the word, must be preceded by formation of an opinion by commissioner that it is necessary so to do for the purpose of protecting interest of government revenue. Again, the Honorable Court, Supreme Court, have said it has to be preceded by formation of an opinion by commissioner. It cannot be the opinion of any other person, and therefore you will have to bear this in mind that if it is due to the opinion of some other person, then in that case I'm afraid the Section 83 power cannot be invoked by the officers. And there is another judgment of Bombay High Court. I'm just trying to recall the name of that particular judgment. In that judgment, the Honorable Bombay High Court has clearly laid down this principle that the Joint Commissioner, cannot attach the bank account. The Joint Commissioner cannot take the decision pertaining to attachment of the bank account. And just give me 1 minute. I'll just share the name of this judgment. Yes, it is Praful Nanji Satara. Praful Nanji Satara. This is a judgment of the Bombay High Court, Honorable Bombay High Court, wherein the Honorable Bombay High Court has property including the bank account needs to be done or not. Let me mention the writ petition number. It is 5182 of 2020. 5182 of 2020. Praful Nanji Satara versus State of Maharashtra. Very let down the principle. या अगर आप commissioner नहीं, joint commissioner है, so you cannot initiate the proceedings of attachment of bank account. And Radhakrishnan Industries, Honorable Supreme Court has been very vocal, and they have clearly let down that this is a draconian power. And since this is a draconian power, unless it is the opinion of the commissioner, this power should not be used. Meaning thereby, this power should be used with abundant caution and responsibility. Otherwise, don't use these powers. So friends, this was Section 83 as it is till date, and the what I can say, the cases pertaining to it. I've tried to cover few of the cases which are let down, and majority of the cases you will appreciate and find that whenever a bank account is attached by the officers, in most of the cases the department, the Honorable Court have been kind enough to release the bank account just to appreciate a fact that if business will continue, then the tax will be recovered. If you will end the business or let the business be closed, then even the tax which is outstanding may not be recoverable. So therefore, they have always appreciated and released the bank account. But yes, in majority of the cases, the property is not being released, except in few of the cases. One of the cases was argued by me, Meenakshi Enterprises versus State of Gujarat, wherein the Honorable Court was kind enough to release the properties also. So because of the paucity of time, and I'll not go with that because I intend to cover by 6:30 so that we have 15-20 minutes for the discussions and for the question and answers. So friends, now let me move to the another segment, which is section 83 as amended. I'll just point out the gravity and the extension of draconian power into it. Now what they are saying, earlier provision was where there is any pending proceeding under section 62, 63, 64, 67, 73, 74. Now what they are saying, that when after the initiation of any proceedings, so initiation of proceedings, it is not pending proceedings, it is after the initiation of proceedings under chapter 12. So now they are including all the sections of the chapter, the entire chapter 12, meaning thereby 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64. That is chapter 12. Chapter 14, which starts with section 67, 68, that is in transit, what documents you will have to continue, and the detention of the vehicle. 69, arrest. 70, summons. Even summons are now included within the purview, meaning thereby now departmental officer will issue a summon to you, and by virtue of the amended provision he will attach your property including bank account. Because department, see, please try to understand and appreciate, in all these cases which we have gone through, the honorable court have released the bank accounts, but where is the provision in law which gives the accountability, which speaks about the accountability of the person who has attached illegally? So there is no such provision of accountability, and unless those provisions of accountability is there in the law, the departmental officer will continue with this. They will continue saying that we have reasons to believe that the attachment will safeguard the interest of revenue, and therefore we have proceeded with the attachments. And now, earlier it was that the pending proceedings under these sections, now it is initiation of proceedings under the chapter itself. So पहले जो 3 सेक्शन थे 62, 63, 64, now it is applicable to 59, 60, 61 also, and chapter 14 entirely, which covers section 67, 68, 69, 70, 71. So even if you are giving the access to your business, if the person is having the access to your business premise under section 71, then also he can attach your bank account now after the amendment. And then it is not stopping here, then it is moving to chapter 15 also, that is demand and recovery. So if any proceeding is initiated against any of these sections which are covered in those chapters, then the attachment can happen. So now after the amendment, once it is implemented, there is no requirement of having any proceeding pending. I'm repeating again, there is no requirement of having any proceeding pending before the authorities. Merely the initiation of the proceeding or the order of attachment. So therefore, this is the draconian change, I would say. Supreme Court has said that section 83 to the current in the current form is draconian. Just see the amendment that they have proposed, and has been assented by the Honorable President. It is much more draconian. Read it further. The commissioner is of the opinion that for the purpose of protecting the interest of revenue, it is necessary so to do. So this we have already read. He may, by order in writing, attach provisionally any property including bank account belonging to the taxable person. So this is okay. Taxable person का आप attach कर सकते हैं, कोई problem नहीं. Or it further says, or any person is specified in subsection 1 capital A of section 122 in such manner as we prescribed. So now it is not limited only to the extension or only to the attachment of property including bank account of the taxable person. It is further now extending to the attachment of the properties of the person who is covered under section 122 subsection 1 capital A, meaning thereby, please appreciate, and this is something which is very serious, सेक्शन 122 1A में वो व्यक्ति आता है जो बेनिफिशियरी होता है, meaning thereby if they are alleging that you are indulged into fake invoices, you have taken fake invoices and it has been managed by on the advice of some person and some benefit out of that, the total benefit which was being passed on, some benefit out of that is retained by Mr. X, then in that case even the properties including the bank account of Mr. X can be attached. Just think the kind of power which they have extended to the officers. Now it is not restricted. Now there are two difference. Again, I would try to reiterate before stopping discussion on this section. And two views are two important. Which one tax to attach the property including bank account of the person who is said to be benefited out of such kind of transactions. If fake invoices वाले लोग 1% हैं, 1% से भी कम होंगे, लेकिन genuine persons को भी अब difficulty face करनी पड़ेगी. Even I am of a very strong view, protection is not taken. We professionals, one another section which is section 129, which also deals with, I will not say attachment, but which deals with detention of goods or interception of vehicles and detention of goods and the penalty which is levied. So section 129, only one point which I wanted to touch upon is now the amendment has been made. We have removed the imposition of tax. They say that now the only penalty which was earlier 100% will now be 200% will be imposed. There is one important judgment which I would wish you all to note down, and then we'll stop the discussion and we'll take question and answers. Gopi Krishna, Shri Gopi Krishna Infrastructure Private Limited. I'm repeating, Shri Gopi Krishna Infrastructure Private Limited. This is a judgment of Honorable Tirupura High Court, and the writ petition number is 317 of 2020. This lays down a very important principle that mere allegation, like what has happened in this case, there was a change or amendment in the e-way. Now the description was there, whereas the instance came of around 3.6 lakh. The petitioner or the taxable person went to the court. He explained to the court that there was no malified intention. It was because the system was not accepting the amendment of the e-way bill, and therefore, and the vehicle got damaged, and we have to change the vehicle. We could not regenerate or amend the e-way bill. There was no malified intention. He tries to establish that the tax has already been paid. So Honorable Court has said that yes, the tax should not be paid. Only penalty of 10,000 rupees under section 122 shall be levied. So there are few judgments. There are multiple judgments which says when section 129 can be imposed. 129 has a limited scope. When the documents which were supposed to be carried along with goods are not there, are not proper, then section 129 is invocable. If those documents are proper, then merely on the basis of classification, on the basis of the valuation, the department cannot raise an objection, and impose the penalties under section 129. Since that is not the topic given to me, I will not be dealing with this, but since attachment of goods were there, so therefore I thought that I should cover up at least this case, because this case is important. You may download the case from the Honorable Tirupura High Court website, and you can go through it, and it's a wonderful judgment which is pronounced by the Honorable Court. With this, friends, I would end my deliberation. I hope I was able to add some value to the discussion that was given on the responsibility which was posed on me pertaining to the attachment of properties, including bank account. Now, I would like to just hand over to the committee, and if any questions are there, I would be loving to handle that. Hello, Manish.
Hello. Thank you, sir. I think we have certain questions. Mishra ji, screen share करेंगे आप? Sir, over to you. Hello. Avinash sir, over to you, sir. We have certain questions.
Okay. Fine.
Question is
Yes.
there on the screen, Avinash ji. So
Yes,
you can go.
I can now see. Yes.
Or you want
First
us to
question.
read?
No, I will read it. Officer has detained the goods and vehicle which was went to port for export and released only after payment of tax and 100% penalty under section 129 on the spot. Now, how can we file appeal offline against this? Officer has failed to upload the order on portal. Now, see, when we read section 107, it clearly says that unless notified, you cannot file an appeal offline. You will have to file an appeal online only. But since there are technical issues and there are issues wherein the order is not being uploaded, the offline appeals are also being accepted by the department. So therefore, I would request you to just fill up that offline form under 107. I think APL 01 is the form, and you can file within the jurisdiction. That will be more than sufficient. And otherwise, if you have any issue pertaining to the timelines, then there is a judgment of Honorable Gujarat High Court, Gujarat Petronet Limited, which is a judgment which says that the time barring of 3 months, which is specified under section 107, does not start till the order is uploaded on the portal. Meaning thereby, if you decide not to file an appeal till the order is uploaded, you can rely on that judgment. But I would request, now since you have merits and you want to argue before the appellate authority, better to file the appeal offline. They are accepting it offline, and argue it out. Don't wait for the order to be uploaded. Don't rely on the judgment. But yes, if you want to rely, then in that case there is a judgment of Honorable Gujarat High Court which is still prevalent, Gujarat Petronet Limited, wherein the Honorable Court has clearly laid down the principle that unless the form is uploaded, the time barring of 3 months will not be calculated. Moving to second question. In case of attachment of bank account under GST, whether all bank accounts are being attached or only that bank account is being attached which is being mentioned at the time of GST registration. Also whether saving bank account of the proprietor can be attached considering sole proprietor as a taxable person. Now see, they are attaching anything and everything. Like I have argued one of the cases wherein the taxpayer was having bank account in Kotak Bank. They were having multiple bank accounts. Now the department has issued DRC 22 wherein they have written that this is the PAN number. All the bank accounts pertaining to this PAN should be blocked. So now not only the proprietor account but also the account wherein this particular PAN number was being admitted as a partner. Like if I'm a proprietor, the case is against me. It was not only the attachment of my proprietorship account, but also all those accounts wherein I was partner or directors. So they have attached all those accounts. It's a judgment which is pronounced by the Honorable Gujarat High Court in formative taxpayer, Meenakshi Industries. There are multiple judgments pertaining to this, wherein these kind of activities they are taken by the Kotak Bank or some banks. In my case, it was Kotak Bank specifically. To be precise, the attachment has to be of the account which is a business account. But yes, so as to safeguard the revenue, in case of proprietorship, they are also attaching the saving account. But we have judgments wherein the saving account of proprietor is not released, but saving account, if joined by his wife, or the saving accounts of the other members of the family, if attached, are certainly released. So the answer to this question would be, generally the account of taxable person needs to be attached. If he is sole proprietor, then his all accounts are getting attached by the department, but none of the family members accounts or none of the firms in which he is partner should be attached if those are not the party in the investigation or in the cause. Moving to question number 3. If the property or bank account is held in co-ownership, can department still attach the property? Can recovery by auction B of property be initiated in such cases? See, there are multiple cases wherein the co-ownership or co-owned property is being attached by the department. You will have to argue it out that co-owned property should not be attached because of these reasons. Otherwise, law says that provisional attachment of property belonging to the taxable person. Now, taxable person can have the sole right of on the property. It can be a joint right also. So 50% to the extent of the value of that property, if you are ready to pay, then even the assessing officer or even the appellate authority will have to appreciate and accept it. Otherwise, the answer, I'm sorry to say, I'm rather afraid to say, but the fact is yes, the co-owned properties can also be attached, as per my view. Next is, my query is not relating to topic, but it is related to ITC. Can ITC of previous year be taken after September return? Is there a legal base supporting the same? Sir, this question pertains to 16 subsection 4, if I'm not wrong. Section 16 subsection 4 is under challenge before various high courts. Bombay High Court, Gujarat High Court, Delhi High Court, multiple high courts it has been challenged. So we'll have to wait and watch. But yes, if you have to create a legal base for making any submissions for claiming the credit or ITC after September return, then you can very well say that 16 subsection 2 has a overriding impact. It is overriding 16.4 also. And if you are satisfying all the conditions which are specified in 16 subsection 2, then you must be given the credit, and section 16 subsection 4 must not be taken into account. Now, how long that argument is going to prevail, let the honorable courts decide. Moving to next question. Sir, you have referred to jurisdiction. In such cases, an assessee administratively assigned to state or center, can the other authority, central or state, carry out search and thereby provisionally attach goods as part of such proceedings? The answer is yes. Please refer 9th GST Council meeting minutes. Please refer the letter dated 5th October 2018 issued by CBEC. In both, it has been clearly stated that we are distributing the taxpayers for the administrative purposes, but in cases of search, that is intelligence-based enforcement actions, I'm repeating, in cases of intelligence-based enforcement actions, there is no jurisdiction, the cross empowerment is allowed. Meaning thereby, if you are assigned to center, then if the state has framed a case and they have developed an intelligence and they want to initiate an action of search against you, they can certainly do it, because that is falling within the purview of intelligence based enforcement action. But if they want to conduct an audit, then I am afraid, audit being an administrative exercise, it has to be done by the officer within whose jurisdiction we are falling. So there has to be a distinction made between the administrative power and the investigative power. If it is investigative action, then certainly the other jurisdiction authority can also come and approach you. If it is an administrative power, then the assignment of jurisdiction becomes relevant, and therefore you will have to rely on that. Moving, can the amendment in section 83 be challenged? See, anything and everything can be challenged, provided it is constitutionally invalid. Now, we have never thought of, or rather, to be in my personal view, I have never thought of challenging section 83. But now, after this question, let me look into that from that angle. But so far as I believe, this is a power which is given by the statute and approved by the Parliament and the GST Council, which is a constitutional body. Before challenging this and trying to getting it held as unconstitutional, we'll have to look into which article it is violating, and most prominently I would relate it with Article 21 or maybe Article 19. So let me evaluate, but certainly any amendment or any challenge, any provision of the law can be challenged by anyone. That is not an issue. The challenge can certainly be there, but how long it will prevail, as of now, I have not researched on that. With reference to attachment of goods in transit, if assessee wants to pay tax under protest, how can appeal be filed as no order is passed by the officer in charge? See, as per me, the release of the goods or the vehicle, they are releasing on the basis of one form. Maybe I think it is MOV 05 or something like that. Maybe they are not issuing an order. You are paying under protest. Then DRC 03, which you are using for payment under protest, and MOV 05, I think that is the release order. Even that can be challenged. So I don't mind saying that even if they are not issuing an order to you, you can very well challenge the action itself and you can file an appeal. Moving to next, what is the penalty when we found during audit that e-way bill was not generated for the said purchase or sale? Now, penalty cannot be levied if it is recorded properly and the tax has been paid. If the tax has not been paid or it is not recorded, then the question of penalty or the tax amount payment comes. If it is recorded and tax has been paid, then maximum the penalty can be for non-compliance of the provisions of Act or rules, which can be maximum if levied under section 122, then 10,000 rupees, or the tax certainly is not there. If not 122, then 125, maximum penalty can be 25,000 plus 25,000, that is 50,000. Next question is, if once Honorable High Court discharged the notice under section 130, then department can issue new notice under 129 on same detention of goods. As per me, this is a question which is being asked, wherein section 129 notice has never been issued, and section 1, I'm presuming this, and section 130 notice has directly been issued by the department. To my understanding, the instance of confiscation or section 130 after this amendment, now prior to amendment, there is a judgment of Synergy Fertichem, which can be referred of Honorable Gujarat High Court, wherein they have clearly said 129, 130 can be levied or can be imposed simultaneously also in these circumstances. But after the amendment, it has lost the non-obstant clause, and therefore section 130 is now a normal provision. So it starts with the completion of 14 days under section 129. So my humble answer would be that if High Court quashes, then section 129 can certainly be imposed, provided the allegation is still survives and the goods are still in transit or in the detention of that particular officer. So my submission would be yes, there is no embargo in the law per se to levy or to impose section 129 penalty. I think the questions are good. If any questions are there, I'll certainly take up.
I think that's it, sir. So, on behalf of WIRC, I deem it a great honor to propose the vote of thanks to you, sir. Thank you so much for such a wonderful session and imparting valuable insights, including all the cases wherever you have argued and you have witnessed arguments and knowledge to all of us, sir. It is always a delight to listen to you. Once again, sir, thank you so much for gracing your important work and sharing with us today. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. May I take your leave?
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Yeah,
Thank
thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.